I'm sure it didn't go unnoticed, the people coming and leaving. We're having 3 hearings going on at the same time, so I'll be very brief. I was here for your opening statement, Secretary Mattis, and you said that you came back out of retirement and you were shocked at what you saw, and you've been very upfront. You've made the statement that for decades America has been uncontested, and that's no longer the case now. So times are different now, and I do think it's great very effective for the uniforms to be talking about this. You know, I can't do that. Those of us up here don't have the credibility that you have when you're speaking from your vast experience. We are facing, in my opinion, the greatest threat this country has ever faced. And so when we talk about that, and we look at the attention that our military has been getting. I go back to 1965 when 52% of the total federal spending was on defense, and then that has slowly degraded down to today when it's 15%. So when it gets right down to it, is a lot of this the fact that we have just not prioritized the military budget. I mean, we're faced with something that the threat is great. And, you know, when you have people like General Milley coming out and saying that he did at the Army posture hearing last month, he said we're outranged and outgunned. You know, we're being very honest with the American people. But do you think we've just gotten to a point over a period of time where we are not giving the proper priorities to defending America?
Senator, I know there were a lot of contributing factors, but I don't know how we can restore the strength that we all know that we need if we don't start with the repeal of the BCA and at least open the door to effective action by the Congress oversight and funding. Right now, it's like we've tied ourselves up in a knot.
Yeah, you agree with that, General?
Senator, I do. I mean, we have to benchmark our military capabilities against our national interests and the threats that we face, and I think what we're trying to do is paint a picture where we have a disconnect. We're in a trend where the military capabilities and capacities we have are insufficient to meet our national interests in the context of the threat that has grown. As Secretary Mattis said, Secretary Kissinger, and I've used this expression many times, describes this as the most volatile and complex period since World War II. And certainly, sitting where I sit, I couldn't agree more with that assessment.
Well, and you know, if you look at just single out end strength, and I was looking at at a chart that you may have in front of you, I don't know, but you take out the reserve and the National Guard and the Guard, and just take the Army active, the Air Force active, Navy active, and Marine active. You have made statements, or the administration has made statements, for example, that the Army active needs to be at about 540,000, and yet this budget is coming up with 476, a static figure from fiscal year 17. Then the same thing is true with the Air Force. It's we talked about the necessity for having 361, and it's at 325, and the same at Navy, and the same with the Marines. So I would just ask if we've talked about how adequate the budget is. Do you really think it is adequate in terms of end strength? We're not meeting the goals that apparently you were in on the decision. Both of you were somewhat in on the decision as to where we should be in the 4 services on just end strength alone. What am I overlooking here?
Senator, I believe what we face right now is the reality that we're already asking you to bust the BCA cap by $52 billion. We're trying to be informed by the reality of what the law says, but at the same time, we're not being shy at telling you where we're really at, you know, in terms of what we need. But I think we need to work together and come up with a solution here, because I don't know how I would bring something to you that laid out a budget for what you've pointed out here when the BCA cap, I mean, I would have to completely ignore this, and I'm ignoring it already to the tune of $52 billion. well, the president is with the budget he's submitted. And it just seems to me that we've got to have the kind of discussion that Senator Perdue, that Chairman McCain, Senator Reid have brought up, and get a grip on reality here, because it's like we're all walking around as if we're victims.
Yeah, well, you're right, and I appreciate the answer, and we have to do all we can. And I still think it's right back to priorities, and a lot of people out there in the real world agree with you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.